Hot take. I'm just gonna say it. If I was fully white and not bald, I'd get a lot more views on my YouTube videos, and I'd get more leads for my coaching business. This isn't rage bait. Let me explain, because once you understand the science, you'll be able to target whatever kind of audience you want for your videos. There's an article in the Psychological Science Journal that has this quote in it. Face typicality likely indicates familiarity and cultural affiliation. As such, these findings have important implications for understanding social perception, including cross-cultural perceptions and interactions. The study this quote is from was trying to establish how personal image impacted trust, and what they found was viewers instinctively trusted people who looked like them more than people who don't. And the closer you are visually to the average of what your viewers look like, the more they'll trust you and the more views you'll get. That presents a problem for me, because being only 26, being bald and being mixed ethnicity, I don't really look similar to anyone. Well, except for my brother, but he's never paid me for anything in his life, so he wouldn't make a great customer. Anyway, it's a problem because my target audience is mostly male entrepreneurs in their 20s to 40s from wealthy Western countries, and that as an average suggests a white guy with hair, not a slightly burnt cue ball. That means when people are scrolling on YouTube and they see my thumbnails next to people like Ed Lawrence, Calloway, Sonny Leoduzzi, or whoever else, they naturally gravitate towards them because they're closer to the facial average of the audience than me. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying me being bald and not being white is why those people actually are more successful than me. There are plenty of other reasons you might click on one of their videos instead of mine, like the reputation of their name, the social proof of their videos having way more views than mine, or them being able to make larger claims in their titles about generating sales through YouTube, or maybe their videos are just better. Maybe. Those are totally valid reasons. So the question now becomes, how can I compete and carve out my own audience effectively to grow my own channel when at first glance I don't really connect with my intended audience? The answer to that is parasocial relationships. These are useful for everyone, not just people who don't look like their audiences. In my case, it really does start with thumbnails. If I remove my own face from thumbnails, now the viewer doesn't have the opportunity to make a sort of subconscious decision of whose video to click on based on visual appearance. This will start to shift the demographic of people who click on my videos immediately. I've tested this both on my channel and a bunch of my clients' channels like Price Action Labs, who after simply taking his face off thumbnails, quadrupled the number of viewers from the US, England and Canada. But this does present its own set of challenges. People are significantly more likely to click on a YouTube video in general if there's a person's face on it. So if you've just taken your face off of thumbnails because you either don't look like your audience or because you don't have good headshots, how do you actually solve that problem? Well, what you could do, and what I'm doing, is occasionally I make videos about people who look like my target audience. Like this video I made about Alex Samozzi, so I can put his face on the thumbnail instead. And if that person is already famous, and in this case Alex is, then a viewer is way more likely to click on my video now than they were on my own face or that of a totally random person. But that's not really sustainable for every video, and it might not be suitable for whatever video you guys are making. So whilst you're a really small YouTuber, that is your time to be either very creative or very direct with thumbnails that don't have faces on them. A creative thumbnail being some sort of abstract visualization of what is being discussed in the video, and a very direct thumbnail being something that explicitly shows what your video is about. So you can A/B test both types of thumbnails on every video you make to see which actually lands better with your audience, and then once you start gaining viewers and, for a lack of better word, start building clout in your industry, you can start to include your face in your thumbnails again because your personal brand is now a selling point of people clicking on your videos. But before you plaster your face all over YouTube, you need to actually connect with your audience and build a parasocial relationship with them. Because you don't want warm leads for your business, you want steaming hot, kettle is whistling and about to spill over, please take my money leads. Parasocial relationships get a bad rap because that phrase is only ever used in the context of a crazy fan who's become obsessed with an influencer and has found out where their mum's auntie's cat's pet mouse lives and won't stop sending them tiny love letters confessing to them. That's obviously not good, but you can build a healthy relationship with your audience, and it's of paramount importance that you actually do that because they evoke stronger emotional reactions in people when they consume your content, and that is the only way you'll have any impact on them to drive them to take action. But here's where it gets a little bit weird and paradoxical. According to the latest literature, parasocial relationships often develop too far, which can actually damage your ability to sell to your audience. When the influencer has become really successful and broadcasts that to their audience, the viewer looks up to the influencer as an aspirational figure as opposed to one that's relatable. That's fine if your business sells a dream to your audience that's really aspirational, like losing loads of weight or getting rich day trading, but for other areas it's really problematic. This introduces the true driving factor for audience members binging your videos and eventually buying what you're selling, which is the idea of self-congruence. Self-congruence is how much the audience member perceives you to be similar to them. In other words, how much do they relate to you? If they have a high degree of relatability, then they're significantly more likely to make a purchasing decision based on your recommendation. And the only way to establish that congruence is to build a parasocial relationship with your audience. Interestingly, this can totally override any rational assessment the audience has of your own credibility. This is why you now see young adults taking entrepreneurship advice from teenagers who are filming in their mum's spare bedroom because they can relate to that situation. Even though it's totally illogical to listen to that person, because if they were anywhere near as successful as they claimed, they probably wouldn't be living in their parents' house with a messy single bed in the background. So, how do you build a parasocial relationship with your audience and create congruence with them to maximize the probability of them buying what you're selling? And how do you make sure you don't go too far and accidentally shift the parasocial relationship to being aspirational instead of relatable? You have a few options here. The smoothest of which is the drip feed approach. This is where you intentionally pick 1 or 2 moments in every video to insert a personal anecdote about your life, which, as the nerd says, builds lore about your personal brand. That's why in the beginning of the video I reference my brother, as it generally humanizes me to the audience since it's like me connecting to another real person. To maximize the value of these personal stories or anecdotes, you should make a very clear decision before producing the video on what type of person you're actually targeting, and that can help inform you on what story you should insert. So if you pick a story that isn't relatable to your audience, you might actually end up alienating them and having a negative impact on your relationship with them. That being said, don't worry about interrupting the flow of the video, as long as the story is relevant to what you're currently talking about, and you don't literally stop abruptly and take a U-turn to suddenly start telling the story, the viewer will go along with the journey with you. Also, having deviations from the main narrative in your video can actually cause the viewer to re-engage with you if their attention was drifting. And if you're hesitant to share a bunch of personal details about your life, that's totally fine. You don't have to. Instead, just try shooting your videos in different parts of your home, not just in your office like I am now. Viewers seeing you in your own personal space in a video is really inviting because it feels homey and relatable, and it takes away that formality and sharp edge that videos shot in a studio with a desk and fancy lighting seem to have. Another great option is putting together a My Story video, where you reveal to the viewer where your journey started and how you got to where you are today. For example, a fitness YouTuber's 5-year transformation, or how you went from $0 to $1 million in profit in 3 years. These videos fit the perfect story structure. There's a clear beginning with a problem and a goal, there's lots of room for personal information to be shared during the main portion of the video, and there's a very clear payoff at the end of the video since you can show the final result. And within many of those lessons, I was able to give personal anecdotes which, whilst being educational to the viewer, also helped them connect with me more personally. So these videos have massive virality potential as it has relevance to your whole audience and serves as an introduction to you, which the YouTube algorithm understands, making it quite likely it will get shown to all of your viewers and your new viewers. A good starting point here is to make 1 in every 5 of your videos from the lens of your personal experience, because this guarantees that any regular viewer of your channel will have at least seen one of them, which helps warm them up to you and turns them into a better quality lead for an easier sale in the future. If you are a really private person and you really don't want to share that kind of personal information with your audience, and you still wish to build congruence with them, you can adopt what I'm dubbing the Chad approach. Chad is a YouTuber targeting Gen Z and Gen Alpha viewers, but she's clearly very private about her own life outside of YouTube, as she cleverly explains at the beginning of every one of her videos like she does here.
Hey guys, my name is Chad.
But Chad still achieves massive levels of relatability with her audience through 2 main ways. Firstly, she uses the current slang of American teens in her videos, so the viewers find listening to her easy as it's very familiar to them and gives them that feeling that they're just kind of hanging out with one of their mates. And secondly, her humor and visuals are a little bit scrappy, juvenile, and immature. But that's exactly what you want when your audience is mostly teenagers who grew up on the internet and when your content is about internet culture. So if you wanted to do this, your approach would be to emulate the language, the vocal cadence, the mannerisms, and overall tone of your audience, which makes your videos feel more personal than they actually are. You could also take a very direct approach to building relatability with your audience, which would be to start posting videos about your personal life, like a personal experience video or a behind the scenes video or a day in the life video, which would work for both entrepreneurs and creators. You'd have to accept that this video is likely not going to perform as well as your normal videos because it's not the main content that most of your audience chose to watch you for, but it would be more likely to be watched by your core audience, making them the most likely to buy from you and helping you improve conversions on other videos that they watch. At the same time, you have to be careful not to be too flashy with your videos, because if you show yourself getting into private jets and having a personal driver, your audience lose all relatability. This is why celebrities who promote brands don't convert as well as influencer ones. Celebrities have spent decades being elevated above the average viewer, so even if they show some personality, they're not really relatable. This might not seem like it's very value add for your audience, but you're better off showing yourself brushing your teeth on a morning and struggling to put on your shoes than you are doing anything that actually shows real insight behind the business or or creator lifestyle. You do need to be mindful of the YouTube algorithm though here, as too many videos that deviate away from your channel's primary content will be harmful. Therefore, to maximize the relatability dosage that you're giving your audience and to protect your YouTube channel, you can use Instagram for more frequent personal insight purposes.